Hello there, I'm Reverend Nhien, founder of Evolving Enneagram. If you've been seeking a compassion-based, contemplative approach to Enneagram-informed transformation, you are certainly in the right place. This is where contemplation meets the Enneagram. We are in week 49 of a 52-week Sunday talk series based on the book by Oren Sofer, Your Heart Was Made for This. Here's the book, if you don't have it already. The extended title is Contemplative Practices for Meeting a World in Crisis with Courage, Integrity, and Love. I'm emphasizing this because I'm just so thrilled and touched that this is what we have been all about this year. And we've been cultivating these blessed, wonderful, rich resources and qualities within ourselves to nourish ourselves and provide a sense of wisdom and fortitude for meeting life with wisdom, compassion, courage, all the things, right? So that said, we are today on the topic of contentment. Then next week, we go to the final topic of forgiveness. So stay tuned for that. Even though I'm going to be talking about closing today, we're going to continue and finish the book series. What is closing this week is our Evolving Enneagrams, Contemplative Practices, and the Enneagram Cohorts 2024 cohorts will all be ending this week. So I'm thinking about all of you right now. It's kind of a big transition. We're going to break for a full month. For those of you who have been eager to join a group, this is the time. Now that we're closing, we have registration open for next year, which starts the week of January 13th, I believe, mid-month. So it's kind of a long break. So because of that, I want to fortify us all with some resources and also a sense of ending and transition before we begin another season of contemplative practices and the Enneagram. Why? In part because our society doesn't do this or doesn't do it well, in my view, where when we threw out a lot of religiosity, we threw out a lot of the beautiful rituals and customs that help us to mark transitions in life. So I want to take today to offer a ritual that you can use to mark this time, whether you're closing out CPE or really closing out the year, whether you're in a life transition, experiencing grief or loss. This could perhaps help you with that as well. So today's talk is entitled Transcendent Contentment, a Candlelight Ritual at the End of the Day. And I want to take today in 3 parts. In the first part, I want to briefly share Sofer's writings about transcendent contentment. Then in part 2, I want to talk about ritual and offer one that you can consider doing this week for yourself. And then in part 3, I'll close with just a few words around the circle of the Enneagram, kind of words of blessing for you at the end of the day. First, when we talk about contentment, I'll say first that we can have a very complicated relationship with this term. I know I heard a lot of that being shared in this past week in our groups. Like some of us don't like it at all, or we equate it with things like complacency or laziness, like the demise of the world based on people who are, quote, content, right? And at the same time, spiritual contentment is taught throughout the world's religious and spiritual traditions. And so there's something to that, right? And what I love about Sofer's work is that he continually invites us to consider how this contemplative journey is not narcissistic. It's not just, oh, go within, like, oh, I'm content, but and my contentment has nothing to do with how you're doing, right? Sofer always puts us in a broader context of interrelatedness. And so his words here. But contentment is not the same as approval of the status quo, complicity with harm, or acceptance of oppression. It is a deeper capacity to be at peace with the unresolved tensions of life, the vulnerability of not knowing, and the weight of suffering. Supported by equanimity, it dawns when the heart expands widely enough to include it all: the loss and grief, the rage and devastation, the urgency and exquisite beauty of being alive. And he goes on to say, rather than discouraging us from action, contentment fuels our work toward a better world. While the human spirit is capable of profound contentment, insight, and freedom in any circumstance, it is, of course, most accessible when our basic needs are met. The more we discover the space to feel all that is true, the more confidence we have to handle what life brings. Having touched profound contentment, we are more able to open to the immense weight of collective grief required for transformation, whether receiving difficult feedback, confronting privilege, or turning toward the realities of climate disruption. Transcendent contentment dissolves the boundaries of the self and reveals our interconnectedness. In that peace, we realize the interdependence of liberation. None are free until all are free. Just take a moment with that. None are free until all are free. So, evolving Enneagram, we, our community, groups, are founded on this idea that wholeness is not individual. That we, as we open into our wholeness, we open into our interrelatedness, our unity with all of life. So this is just so foundational. And our CPE, Contemplative Practices, and the Enneagram groups exist because of that, because of the notion that because we are interrelated beings, that we don't wake up in a vacuum. And we don't, as we wake, we find we are not separate. We are not islands anyway, right? Like on the most fundamental level of being. And so when we talk about the alleviation of human suffering, so contentment is no small thing. It is the contentment of all beings that we're talking about, right? That I'm talking about anyway. And the understanding that my joy is bound up with your joy. My peace is bound up with your peace, right? And so because of this, and because our groups are ending right now, it felt important for me to reiterate this point that we do nothing alone, and that this grappling with one another, this participation in community, whether you're in our community or in another one, that it's essential because it actually mirrors the truth of life, the interrelatedness, as the famous Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh says, we inter-are, right? So I say this in part because as we close this time, one of the most important teachings I want to offer around conscious community and around why CPE exists is that it's an attempt to go past a consumer model of spirituality. Where in this modern day, there's a lot of this, okay, I buy this spiritual class and, it's like, is it working for me? What is it, and a lot of times that me is like coming from this egoic place, right? Like, is it bringing me joy, happiness, as opposed to like, I am this powerful participant. And this investment of time in community is how I intentionally grapple with my relationality to others, right? The perceived others. And in this unfoldment, I am triggered and I am blessed. I am impacted inevitably, and I inevitably impact. And it becomes this microcosm, right, for our participation in the larger world. So, saying that, I want to offer, as we move into part 2 now, this ritual that is a simple ritual of lighting a candle that you might do each day this week. I often actually have candles, you just don't see them because I love them. This one's a wick candle. Sorry, I'm not getting any promotional benefit from promoting wick, but they have that, nice sound. Okay. So light a candle. And then after you do this little practice, you can blow out the candle. And for those of you who are in CPE, I would invite you to bring a candle to the meetings that you're attending this week. Some of you are in more than one group, right? And then we can kind of like do this together. So here are the questions that I would like for you to ponder. First, understanding our relationality, right? I would love for you to reflect after you light the candle, to reflect and then give thanks to someone who impacted or touched you. I'm sure there are many examples, but you might even, if you're in a group, think about someone who did, and they don't even know that they did. And of course, if you're not in a CPE group, I'm sure you can think about someone who's impacted or touched you at your workplace, anything like that. This year, this CPE session, whatever it is. So light a candle, give thanks to someone who impacted or touched you. Maybe doesn't even know. Now, if you're in our groups, you know that we can't talk we don't crosstalk. So you would never say, oh, Jane, you did this. It would be more like, you know what? I was reflecting, that when Macha read her poetry, I was deeply touched and inspired. I mean, you'd maybe want to be a little more specific than that, but so when someone did something, you were impacted, right? Maybe they're in the very group that you're sharing it, but you're not talking to them. You're just mentioning that when so-and-so did this. It doesn't have to be someone in your group. And then step 2, bless someone, offering them well-being and contentment. And I would even say that you might want to consider blessing someone else, not necessarily that person, but maybe even someone who kind of triggers you a little, offering them contentment. And then in the final step, this thing that I did, maybe it's the whole year for you. Maybe you just want to think in terms of if you're doing this once a day, like you can do it figuratively at the end of the day, like as an end of the year thing, or you could do it each day this week. At the end of the day, I can say, for instance, oh, my Sunday sermon, it's getting dark here. I'm getting ready to, finish the Sunday talk. At the end of the day, this talk, I could nitpick at it, but I might just let myself say, this thing that I did, this talk that I gave, it is enough. It is enough. And then part 3, just a few words around the Enneagram. At the end of the day, type 1. At the end of the day, you deserve deep peace. Gently cease the inner violence of warring with what is. Type 2. At the end of the day, you deserve abundant love. Resist focusing on others' needs before your own. Type 3. You deserve absolute grace. Rest from striving to earn your worth. Type 4. At the end of the day, you deserve unconditional belonging. Take your rightful place in the diverse family of things. Type 5. At the end of the day, you deserve faith and confidence. Grant yourself the benefit of the doubt and trust your own knowledge and expertise. Type 6. At the end of the day, you deserve warmth. Let yourself receive others' kindnesses without doubting or deflecting. Type 7. At the end of the day, you deserve satisfaction. Relish who you are, where you are, in all that you already possess in the here and now. Type 8. At the end of the day, you deserve nurturing. Take off your armor and willingly open yourself to receiving heartfelt care. Type 9. At the end of the day, you deserve to shine. Resist shrinking and let yourself be the center of attention, others as well as your own. And I'll close with words by that Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment.